Anyway, I'm just curious about, maybe in particular for Dan to deal with this, about Gavin Newsom. And I don't understand how there doesn't seem to be any pushback on his merits as an administrator. Whether it's forest management or water management or the price of gas in California, or I was listening to Victor Davis Hanson the other day, and he said 13 million people have moved out of California, 300 corporations have moved out of California, the tax rate there, homelessness, all the stuff that's going on there. And yet he puts up a mean tweet, try and compete with Trump on mean tweets, and he's a tier one candidate. But nobody seems to be going, can the guy run a gas station?
Yeah. Croft, incredible question. Well framed. Dan.
Yeah, Croft, I agree with you, which is why I said, in my opinion, Newsom is tier one on style, but AOC on substance, again, within the Democratic Party, not like where does Dan Turrentine
Yeah,
come
I
down.
wonder about that.
Yeah, I think that for Newsom, look, when Mark, if you haven't watched Mark's interview with Gavin now, I don't know what, Mark, 3 months ago, two months ago, Newsom addresses some of these substance issues about business openings and people moving in or out of the state. He is going to have to address this. J.B. Pritzker is going to have to address the fact that Illinois may not necessarily be the model to a lot of people that they would want for the country. He's going to have to do it with California. Conversely, Shapiro and Whitmer are going to say, look at what we've done in our states, look at our popularity in our states. And those guys are not very good. So that's Newsom's Achilles until he addresses it. And he has no forward-looking agenda right now. And I'm not criticizing him. Nobody does. And I'm not sure if 4 years out, I'd be like, here are my policy papers. But they're all going to have to put, what would I do for you?
Well, it seems
I think
like
that to me,
he's got a track
actually,
record to support. I'm so sorry, pardon me.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
No, I think Croft, you're absolutely right. I think this is the fascinating dynamic that's happening in politics right now, where most of our analysis is on style, crowds, authenticity, not followers, right? I mean, that's, you look at even the Politico story and playbook today about Newsom, right? It's how many followers do you have? Who's running the account, the infrastructure, not the accomplishments. I've been fascinated by this. Again, you don't have to agree with the accomplishments, but I've been making this point and asking pollsters to come on my show about this. Whether or not you agree with President Trump or not aside, you have to acknowledge how much he's gotten done in the first 200 days on a variety of things. And if you're a MAGA supporter, you have to be extremely excited, right? And yet it doesn't reflect it. And I just am fascinated by the fact that we're almost judging politicians these days by the style part of the job as opposed to the substance part of the job. Right. And I find that to be just a fascinating thing. And this goes to the heart of your question, Croft, because I look at Gavin Newsom and go, how do people think he's tier one?
Yeah.
Considering the disasters and the management of them, et cetera.
So let me address this because Croft raised it. I see it all over Twitter, people watching the show and live tweeting. I see it in the chat. Okay. If we were having the morning meeting in 2001, and I came on and I said, John Kerry, tier one candidate. You all would be saying, are you kidding? John Kerry, Boston Brahmin. John Kerry once asked one of his advisors, why aren't we running on my accomplishments in the Senate? And his advisor said, sir, you have no accomplishments in the Senate. Like you would say, that's a joke. We're not here predicting Gavin Newsom's going to be president. We're saying in the fight for the nomination, he's tier one. John Kerry was tier one. There are no perfect candidates. You get a Bill Clinton or George W. Bush or a Donald Trump for the clear seeing in 2015. And you say, well, yeah, they've got flaws. Everybody has flaws, but they're the strongest. They're the best second grade soccer player on a second grade team, right? This cycle, there's no Democratic frontrunner. If Gavin Newsom were running against Barack Obama and Bill Clinton, would we be saying Gavin Newsom was strong? No. But for those of you who say, why is the morning meeting spending so much time talking about this? It's because something significant's happened. He's in tier one by himself, and you can spend 2 hours talking about his flaws. But I'm telling you, he is in tier one by himself because this is a weak field. And for all of his flaws, he's got something going on. He's the governor of California. He's got social media game. He's got a huge mailing list. He's a great communicator. As I told you before, he's a brave fighter. He's underestimated as a political warrior. And that puts him head and shoulders above these other people who are weak and have flaws of their own and aren't in the arena the way he is.
Agreed.
Yeah.
appreciate
I think that's, yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's two separate questions, Croft, right? You're right on the accomplishments. And as I said, I find this fascinating around the board. But to Mark's point, I mean, look, Gavin Newsom's doing stuff. All of these other people who we talk about as potential candidates the last week, largely silent. Newsom's traveling. He's going to states. He's commenting on everything. He's mixing it up.
Yeah.
And I get it. If I were a Democrat, I'd be like, wow, this guy's out there getting in the ring. I like that.
And
Ron,
Croft,
don't forget, in 13, no one talked about Trump as the tier 1 candidate.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And then two, when he got in, what did people go somewhat bonkers in the base over? He was fighting. He was mocking Jeb Bush.
Yeah.
He was going at people.
But Croft, if we were doing the morning meeting in 2013, and I said, well, how about Donald Trump, tier 1 candidate? You'd say, well, bankruptcies, divorces, flip-flopped on these 17 positions, no record of governance. You'd say, well, of course, Donald Trump is not a tier 1 candidate. And I'd say, well, he's got some upsides too. Let's talk about that. So I really think you people who are being negative about our conversation about Gavin Newsom and negative about Gavin Newsom are not putting it respectfully. You're not putting it in the right perspective of history and again, of how weak this field is. Thank you, Prof.
If I recall, the number 1 top tier candidate in 13 was one Jeb Bush. And most people saw him as like
formidable
away.
Formidable. Yeah. Want more great clips like that? I've got an idea. Hit the subscribe button, be part of the Two-Way community, never miss a clip. And you can always watch our full episodes, join them live, go to twoway.tv.